Welcome, chosen one. Before you say anything, before you talk yourself out of what you've been quietly feeling in your chest for years, I need you to hear this. The same God who looked at a stuttering shepherd hiding in the desert and said, "You're the one," is the same God who looked at your life, your mess, your fears, and said, "That one, right there." Let that sink in. Most people think leaders are born bold. That authority shows up in a tailored suit with a microphone and a crowd already cheering. But here's the truth they never put in the textbooks. Moses didn't want the job. He argued with God, offered up his speech impediment like a resignation letter, and still got sent anyway. Still parted the sea. Still led 2 million people out of impossible. And here's the kicker. If you've been feeling unqualified, overwhelmed, and like you were called to something bigger than your current circumstances can explain, that's not a disqualification. That's a confirmation. You don't walk with the authority of someone trying to earn their place. You walk with Moses' authority, and that is a completely different thing. So let's get into it. 1. You were chosen before you were comfortable. Moses wasn't chosen when he was polished. He was chosen when he was in the wilderness, hiding from his past, tending someone else's flock, probably wondering if the best chapter of his life had already come and gone. And that's exactly where the burning bush showed up. Not on a stage, not in a palace, in the middle of obscurity. And here's what that means for you. The season you've been calling your waiting season, your wilderness season, your stuck season, that was your burning bush season. Something greater was already marking you before anyone else could see it. Most people wait until they feel ready to step into purpose. But you, someone called to lead the impossible, were being shaped in the exact places that made you feel most unprepared. The pressure you felt in isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You weren't hidden from greatness, you were hidden for it. That's Moses-level authority, called before you could even rehearse your answer. 2. Your reluctance is not a red flag, it's a royal sign. I need to say this slowly so it lands right. The very fact that you've hesitated, second-guessed, gone back and forth about whether you're truly called to lead, that's not a sign that you've got the wrong address. That's a sign you might be standing at the right door. Arrogant people don't wrestle with their calling. They rush past everyone, announce themselves, and take the throne before anyone invites them. But those who carry genuine authority, they argue with God about it at 2 in the morning. Moses said, "Who am I?" He didn't sprint to Pharaoh. He tried to negotiate his way out of the assignment. But here's what that kind of reluctance actually signals. You understand the weight of what you've been given. You're not playing. You're not performing. And that sober, serious, "I don't know if I'm ready" feeling, that's what real leadership feels like before it activates. Most people who think they're leaders want the crown. You've been dreading the cross. And that distinction is everything. 3. You carry a rod that looks ordinary until God touches it. Moses had a shepherd's staff. That's it. Not a weapon, not a symbol of royalty, just a stick he used every day to tend animals, the most common, unremarkable tool imaginable. And God said, "What's in your hand?" Because God doesn't need impressive resources, he needs available ones. Now look at what's in your hand. Your voice, your story, your experience, your gift that you've been undervaluing because it came so naturally to you. You've been looking at what other leaders carry, the platforms, the following, the confidence, the clout, and quietly wondering why your stick looks so plain. But you don't understand what happens when ordinary things get touched by an extraordinary assignment. The same staff Moses used to lead sheep across a field became the instrument he used to split a sea in half. Don't let the smallness of your current resource fool you about the enormity of your coming impact. What God assigns becomes what God amplifies. That rod in your hand is not ordinary. It never was. 4. The opposition you're facing is proof. You're closing in on Pharaoh's territory. Let me tell you something about Pharaoh. He didn't show up in Moses' life before Moses had a calling. The resistance, the confrontation, the warfare, it all escalated in direct proportion to how close Moses got to his breakthrough. You don't send armies after someone who isn't a threat. You don't hold emergency meetings about someone who isn't about to change the game. So if the pressure in your life has been intensifying lately, if it feels like everything is pushing back harder than usual, if doors are slamming and people are shifting and circumstances are getting complicated in ways they never were before, I need you to hear this as good news. Pharaoh doesn't mobilize against people who aren't going anywhere. The opposition you're experiencing isn't evidence that you're losing. It's evidence that you're getting closer. While others interpret resistance as a stop sign, you have the authority to read it as a confirmation. The enemy wouldn't be rearranging his whole schedule to stress you out if you weren't worth worrying about. 5. You were built to lead people who don't even know they need leading. Yet Moses didn't lead a willing, enthusiastic group of people. He led a traumatized, fearful, stubborn crowd that complained every single step of the way. They missed Egypt. They doubted the plan. They built a golden calf in his absence. They told him to his face they'd rather be in chains than trust the unknown. And yet, the assignment didn't change. Here's what that means for someone like you. The people you're called to lead may not be celebrating you right now. Some of them are still attached to their Egypt. Some of them won't recognize your authority until they see the sea part. Don't shrink your leadership because the people around you haven't caught up yet. Don't size down your calling because the room hasn't confirmed it. The Israelites weren't ready to follow Moses when the burning bush showed up either. But the assignment was still real, the calling was still legitimate, and the miracle was still going to happen. Lead anyway. They'll catch up when the water starts to move. 6. You've already survived the very thing that was supposed to stop you. Before Moses ever stood before Pharaoh, a decree went out to kill every Hebrew boy at birth. Before his purpose could even be named, there was already an attempt to erase it. And yet, here he was, floating in a basket on a river, taken in by the very house that wanted him gone, raised in the palace of his oppressor, protected by the system designed to destroy him. If that's not the most audacious miracle you've ever heard, read it again. And now I want you to think about your life. Think about the things that were supposed to take you out, the diagnosis, the breakdown, the season where nothing made sense, the relationship that nearly dismantled your identity, the moment you genuinely didn't know if you'd make it through. You did, and not barely. You came through refined, more aware, more grounded, because what's on you doesn't allow the things designed to kill you to finish the job. You've already survived your basket on the Nile moment. You just didn't know that's what it was. 7. Your assignment isn't just personal, it's generational. This might be the point that shifts everything for you, so stay with me. Moses wasn't leading people to a destination that was just good for him. He was leading a generation out of bondage so that future generations would never have to live in it. His obedience didn't just change his life, it changed the trajectory of an entire lineage. And the thing that some of you haven't fully grasped yet is that what you're stepping into isn't just about you. There are people behind you, children, communities, people who haven't been born yet, whose freedom is tied to whether or not you say yes to this thing. When you play small, it's not just your potential that suffers. There's a generation that was counting on you to break the ceiling. When you let fear talk you out of leading, you're not just holding yourself back. You're holding the line that someone else needs you to cross. You were chosen not just to free yourself from Egypt. You were chosen to take people with you. 8. You don't need everyone to believe in you to lead. You need God too. Here's a piece of Moses' story that doesn't get quoted on enough Instagram graphics. His own people doubted him. They questioned his authority. They complained. They said maybe someone else should be leading. They challenged him openly in front of the crowd. And you know what Moses did? He didn't collapse. He didn't hold a town hall meeting to rebuild trust. He went back to the source. He went to the tent of meeting. He went back into the presence of the God who sent him in the first place. Because when you carry a calling that came from above, you don't need a vote to keep leading. You need a relationship with the one who assigned you. Most people operating in gift-based leadership are constantly seeking the approval of the room. But you, carrying Moses-level authority, you've been through too much, heard too clearly, survived too specifically, to need a unanimous board vote to confirm what God already told you in private. Let them doubt. Let them question. The sea will answer for you when the time comes. 9. The wilderness is where authority gets forged, not faked. 40 years. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before one single miracle. 40 years of anonymity, of doing what felt like nothing important, of distance from the life he thought he was supposed to have. And then, the burning bush. And when he stepped into his assignment, he didn't carry theoretical confidence. He carried tested, tried, fire-forged authority. The kind that only comes from having had your ego broken down in the silence, your agendas stripped away in the desert, your performance addiction starved out by years with no audience. I know some of you are frustrated right now because you feel like you've been in your wilderness too long, like the preparation season has overstayed its welcome, like you're ready and nothing is moving. But here's what the wilderness does that no shortcut ever could. It builds the kind of character that can handle the kind of calling that's waiting for you. Fake leaders crack under pressure because they never had a wilderness. You've been forged in it. And that forging is exactly what makes your authority real. 10. You have a Moses moment coming that will silence every doubt that ever came for you. There's a moment in every chosen leader's story when everything shifts, when the sea actually parts, when the miracle becomes undeniable, when even the people who doubted the loudest go completely silent and still. And that moment is coming for you, not as a metaphor, as an actual, visible, undeniable turning of the tide in your life. The same God who delivered on the impossible promise to Moses hasn't changed the way he operates. He still waits until the moment looks like it's too late, because that's when the miracle hits different. That's when no one can explain it away with talent, or timing, or lucky circumstance. When the Red Sea parts, everybody knows it wasn't you, and everybody knows it was for you. Your haters are going to need a whole crisis management strategy when your Moses moment shows up. They'll be quiet, and not because they suddenly became kind people. They'll be quiet because they won't have words. God's about to make your case for you, and he doesn't need you to argue it first. 11. You speak with authority because you've heard from the source. Moses came down from the mountain with his face literally glowing from being in the presence of God. And that glow, that radiance, wasn't cosmetic. It was residue. It was the evidence that he had been somewhere most people hadn't. And when you've truly been in the presence of something greater, when you've had those 3 a.m. moments of clarity, those quiet seasons where you heard something in your spirit that you couldn't have manufactured, you carry a residue too. It's in the way you speak. It's in the words you choose. It's in why what you say tends to land differently than when others say the same thing. People can tell the difference between someone performing authority and someone who actually has it. It's not about volume. It's not about credentials. It's about whether you've been to the mountain. And if you've been through what you've been through, if you've had those undeniable moments of encounter, then you've been to the mountain. Your voice carries that. Don't apologize for it. Let it lead. 12. The impossible is literally your jurisdiction. Let me be crystal clear about something before we close out this body of points. Moses didn't get a comfortable assignment. He didn't get the easy win. He got, go tell the most powerful ruler in the world to release his entire free labor force. Go do that with a stick and no army. That's not an assignment for someone with average authority. That's an assignment for someone whose authority isn't sourced in the natural. And here's the thing. God didn't hand Moses the impossible because he wanted to embarrass him. He gave him the impossible because he needed everyone watching, the Israelites, the Egyptians, the nations that would hear about this for generations, to know that what was working on Moses' behalf was not human. The bigger the impossible, the louder the testimony. The more impossible your assignment looks, the more undeniable the God behind it will be when it gets done. You weren't handed this calling because it was easy. You were handed it because when it comes to pass, no one gets to take the credit but the one who sent you. 13. You were born for this exact moment in history, not another one. Moses wasn't born in Pharaoh's time by accident. He wasn't placed in that particular moment of history by coincidence. He was calibrated for it. His personality, his backstory, his dual identity, his pain, his resilience, his relationship with the wilderness, all of it, custom built for the exact moment he was born into. And I need you to understand something about your own timeline. You weren't born in the wrong era. You weren't born too early or too late. You're not behind schedule. You are alive in this specific moment of history because this specific moment of history requires exactly what you carry. The pain you've processed, the wisdom you've extracted from suffering, the authority you've developed in private, the voice that took years of wilderness to purify. This generation, this time, this cultural moment, it needed someone who carries what you carry, not a copy of someone else, not a more polished, more pedigreed version of a leader. You, in this form, with this story, right now, that's not an accident. That's an appointment. Chosen one. Let everything we just walked through settle into you for a second, because this wasn't just a list of encouraging points. This was a mirror, and what you just saw in it is the truth about who you actually are, not the version that fear built, not the version that comparison constructed, not the story that rejection wrote about you. The real you, the one marked before you were born, the one who survived what was designed to take you out. The one who's been forged in seasons that would have broken someone who wasn't built for what's coming. You are not a person who wants to lead. You are a person who was made to lead. And there is a fundamental difference between those two things. Wanting is about desire. Being made is about design. You were designed for the impossible, not as a curse, but as a calling. Not to burden you, but to distinguish you. The impossible things God put in your path are the very things that will become your testimony, your platform, your authority, and your assignment. You don't just survive impossible, you lead people through it. That is the Moses anointing, and it is on your life. You were the one who got sent when no one else would go. You are the one who hears when the room goes quiet. You are the one who rises when every natural circumstance said, "Sit down." You were placed in your family for a reason. Placed in your city for a reason. Placed in your generation for a reason. And the resistance you've encountered, the people who tried to hold you back, the systems that said you didn't qualify, they didn't stop the assignment, they confirmed it. Because nobody sends armies after someone who isn't going anywhere. So carry this forward, not arrogantly, but absolutely. Walk into every room knowing that what's on you is not common. Lead with the full understanding that your authority wasn't granted by men and therefore cannot be revoked by them. Part your sea, stand before your Pharaoh, climb your mountain, lead your people. You were born to lead the impossible, and the impossible has been waiting for you. If this confirmed something you've been quietly carrying, if it put into words something you've felt for a long time but couldn't explain, don't keep this to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and join a growing community of chosen leaders who are done shrinking, done waiting for permission, done apologizing for the calling on their lives. We are building something here on Chosen to Lead that is bigger than a channel. It is a movement of people who know who they are and why they're here. Hit the like button if this resonated with your spirit. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the impossible thing you know you've been called to lead? I want to hear it. Your story matters, and this community wants to witness it unfold. And share this video with someone who's been doubting their calling, someone who's been in their wilderness too long and starting to wonder if the burning bush is ever going to show up. This might be the word they've been waiting for. You never know whose Red Sea moment you might spark just by passing this along. I'm honored to be on this journey with you. Keep leading, keep walking. The sea is about to part. God bless you.